take off your shirt, not because someone tells you to, because the heat leaves you no other option. You are 6 meters underground, directly beneath the reactor that exploded 9 days ago, and the temperature in the tunnel is 54 degrees Celsius. Your shirt was soaked through within the first 10 minutes of the shift. By 20 minutes, it became something that was working against you, holding the heat against your skin rather than letting it escape. You took it off. Everyone took off their shirts. It was not a decision. It was physics. You are a coal miner from the Donbass. You have spent 15 years underground. You know heat. You know the specific compressed heat of a mine tunnel, the way it builds when ventilation is inadequate, and the rock around you holds the temperature of the earth and gives it back to you steadily, without negotiation. You know what it means to work in heat that most people would not believe a person can work in. This heat is different. This heat is coming from above you. Above you, through 6 meters of concrete and steel, is the open core of reactor number 4. The molten fuel inside the reactor is burning its way downward through the reactor building's foundation. If it reaches the groundwater beneath the building, the water will flash to steam instantly. The steam explosion will be many times larger than the original explosion. The radioactive material that will be released into the atmosphere will be orders of magnitude more than April 26th released. The Dnipro River, which supplies drinking water to Kiev and to 30 million people downstream, will be contaminated for decades. You are digging a tunnel to prevent this. You are one of 600 miners brought to Chernobyl from the coal fields of Ukraine and Russia to dig a tunnel under the reactor so that a concrete freezing platform can be installed to stop the fuel from reaching the groundwater. You are doing this in 54 degrees, without your shirt, with a pickaxe, by hand. This is a story about the simplest possible response to the most complex possible problem. The robots failed on the roof. They sent humans. The machines could not dig the tunnel fast enough. They sent miners. The problem at Chernobyl in the weeks after the explosion was that every solution, requiring sophisticated technology, eventually ran into the same limitation. The radiation levels destroyed electronics. The sensors failed. The remote controls failed. The automated systems failed. What did not fail was a man with a pickaxe who could take off his shirt and get into a tunnel and dig. 600 miners were brought to Chernobyl in May 1986. They came from the Donetsk coal fields, from the mines of western Ukraine, from Russia. They were professional miners, men who had spent careers underground in conditions that the general public would find extraordinary. They were told what they were being asked to do. They were told why. They were told about the stakes. Most of them went without extended argument. There was initial resistance. The miners were coal miners. This was a nuclear situation. Their union representatives said it was not their work. Some of the miners said the same. And then someone, accounts differ on who exactly, someone asked the question that ended the resistance. The question was this: if you know that what you fail to do today will result in 30 million people drinking contaminated water, can you go home and live with that? The resistance ended. They dug. His name was Mikhail. He was 38 years old. He had been a miner in the Donetsk basin for 15 years. He had a wife and 3 sons. He had never been to Chernobyl before, May 3, 1986, and he had no particular desire to go. He went because the question was asked, and the question had only one answer that he could live with. In this story, you are Mikhail. The tunnel is in front of you. The pickaxe is in your hand. The reactor is 6 meters above your head. In this story, you are the miner. The work is simple. The stakes are the largest you have ever worked against. The heat is the worst you have ever been in. You dig. You went into the mines at 23. Not because you had no other options. Your father would have said you had other options, and your father would have been right. And you did not take them because the mines paid well, and the mines were what the men in your family did, and the mines, in the specific culture of the Donetsk basin, were not a last resort but a first choice. a trade with its own pride and its own hierarchy and its own way of understanding what a working life was for. Coal mining, the specific knowledge of coal, the seams, the strata, the way coal differs from the surrounding rock in color and texture and density, the way a good seam sounds when you strike it compared to a bad one, the specific smell of a working coal face, the ancient carbon smell of something that was alive 300 million years ago and has been compressed by the weight of the world since then into the black rock that heats houses and runs power stations and has defined the economy of an entire region of a country. You know this underground. You know the dark of it. Not the dark of a room with the lights off, which is dark but contains the memory of light and the expectation of its return. The dark of a mind is a different category. It is the dark of a place that has never been lit by anything except the lights that miners bring with them. The dark of geological time. You have been in this dark for 15 years, and it has become familiar in the way that anything becomes familiar if you spend enough time with it. You do not fear the dark underground. The dark is just the dark. You fear bad rock. You fear poor ventilation. You fear the sounds that rock makes when it is under stress, that it is about to stop tolerating. You have the educated fears of a professional, the fears that come from knowledge rather than imagination, the fears that are calibrated to actual danger rather than to the mere idea of danger. These fears have kept you alive for 15 years. They are with you now in the truck on the way to Chernobyl, sorting through what they know about what is ahead and trying to calibrate. They find it difficult to calibrate. This is new territory. On the truck to Chernobyl, the other miners from your crew are quiet. Not the quiet of fear exactly. These are men who have worked in dangerous conditions for years and who have a relationship with danger that is more complex than simple fear. The quiet of people confronting something outside their established categories. They know mining. They know what risk looks like inside a mine. What they do not know is what risk looks like directly beneath a reactor that has exploded. The briefing they received before leaving the Donbass was short on specifics. The specifics are at the destination. The briefing happens in a tent at the edge of the exclusion zone, a military man and a civilian engineer. The military man explains the situation with the economy of language that military men use when they are delivering information that does not benefit from elaboration. The engineer explains the technical problem and the proposed solution. The technical problem: the molten fuel in the destroyed reactor is burning downward through the reactor building structure. Below the building is a layer of sand, and below the sand is the water table, and below the water table is a hydrological connection to the Pripyat River, and through the Pripyat River to the Dnipro. If the fuel reaches the water, the steam explosion will be enormous. The radioactive contamination of the water supply will affect millions of people downstream. The proposed solution: dig a tunnel under the reactor building, install a concrete platform refrigerated by liquid nitrogen, creating a frozen barrier between the descending fuel and the groundwater. The platform will stop the fuel. The fuel will solidify. The catastrophic second explosion will be prevented. The problem with the proposed solution: the tunnel must go directly under the reactor. The reactor is the source of the highest radiation levels at the site. The heat generated by the open core is radiating downward through the building's foundation and into the earth below. The tunnel environment will be hot, extremely hot. The ventilation that can be provided will help but will not fully address the temperature. The engineer says, we expect temperatures in the tunnel of approximately 50 degrees Celsius. He says this as a fact. He does not say it apologetically. He says it the way you tell someone the specifications of a job. He says each shift will be 3 hours. You will be rotated frequently. This is both for radiation management and for the heat. He says the work requires experienced miners, specifically experienced miners who can work in confined, hot, difficult conditions and who can be trusted to maintain a consistent pace and direction. He says, you are those miners. You look at the other men around you, 15 years underground. Every one of you. You nod. You go. One of the men from your crew, a man named Volodya, who has been mining longer than you and who is generally the quietest person in any room he occupies. asks a question after the briefing. He says, "If we do this correctly, does it actually work?" The engineer says, "The modeling says yes. The models are our best current understanding." Volodya looks at him for a moment. Then he says, "And if the models are wrong," the engineer says, "then we will need a different approach." Volodya nods. He does not ask what the different approach would be. He picks up his equipment. He gets in the vehicle. This is the specific pragmatism of a man who has spent his life doing physical work in dangerous conditions. The modeling says yes, that is enough to go on. The reactor building is visible from a long way. You see it before you get out of the vehicle. The sarcophagus construction has not yet reached the height it will eventually reach, and the open core of reactor number 4 is visible from this distance as a dark, irregular shape at the top of the building, the roof gone, the inside exposed. Above the opening, there's a slight haze, not smoke exactly. Something in the air above the reactor that distorts the light slightly, the way heat distorts air above a road on a summer day. The dosimeter you have been given reads consistently. You watch it. You have been told what levels mean what. The level here, outside the building, at this distance, is elevated. But within the range they described as the approach zone, you note this and you keep walking. The access point for the tunnel is on the south side of the reactor building, a hole in the building's foundation, braced with steel supports, leading down into the earth below. Other miners are coming out as you arrive. 3-hour shift finished. Their faces have the look of men who have been in extreme heat, flushed, drained, the specific fatigue of the body that has spent hours moving in temperatures it was not designed to sustain. Some of them have their shirts off and are holding them. Some of them already had their shirts off when they came out and are carrying them without apparent thought, as if the shirts are tools they set down and forgot about. One of them sees you and nods. He says nothing. He nods and keeps walking toward the medical tent. You look at the hole. You look at the men going into the hole ahead of you. You go in. The moment you descend below the surface, the temperature changes. Not slowly, quickly. The air above ground, whatever its temperature, is connected to the sky and to wind and to all the ordinary systems that moderate outdoor temperatures. Underground, the air is still. It has been heated from above by the reactor and from the sides by the surrounding earth, and it has nowhere to go. You descend 3 meters and the temperature is already different. You descend 6 meters and you understand, with the knowledge of a man who has been in hot mines and knows what hot mines feel like, that this is a different category. The tunnel is not a mine tunnel. A mine tunnel is designed for repeated use. It has proper bracing, proper ventilation, proper lighting, the accumulated infrastructure of a working operation that will run for years. The tunnel under the reactor is designed for one purpose: get under the reactor as fast as possible and install the platform. It is temporary by design. The bracing is adequate, but not generous. The ventilation is a single pipe bringing air from outside, providing airflow, but not controlling the temperature. The lighting is work lights on stands running off cables, filling the space with the specific bright white of portable construction lighting. The face is perhaps 40 meters in. You have walked 40 meters from the access point, crouching where the ceiling is low, stepping around the equipment and the other miners, moving toward the sound of the work, which is the sound of a pickaxe striking rock and the sound of a pneumatic drill operating and the sound of men breathing hard in air that is 54 degrees. You take off your shirt. The man ahead of you already has his off. The man behind you takes his off as you take yours. This happens without discussion. The shirts come off and are tucked into belts or left on ledges, and the work continues. The team leader assigns you to the face. The face is the cutting edge of the tunnel, the advancing end, the place where new earth is being removed. Working the face is the hardest and most important position. You are working the face because you have 15 years of experience and because the team leader can read this in the way you carry your equipment and the way you walked into the tunnel. You take the pickaxe. You swing. The earth beneath the reactor is not coal. It is a mixture of clay and sand, compacted by the weight of the building above it. It is harder than it looks in some places and soft in others, with a specific inconsistency of ground. that has not been surveyed properly before being dug into under emergency conditions. You adapt your swing to the material. This is something that 15 years gives you. The ability to read resistance in the earth before you have finished your swing, to adjust the angle and the force in real time. You are not swinging blindly. You are in conversation with the ground. The ground tells you what it needs, and you respond. 54 degrees Celsius is the temperature of a very hot sauna. The difference between a sauna and this tunnel is that in a sauna you sit still. You sit on a bench and you breathe carefully, and the heat works on your body with your cooperation. You can leave when you want. You pour water over the rocks and you control the steam. The sauna is hot on your terms. This heat is not on your terms. You are swinging a pickaxe in 54 degrees. Your muscles are generating heat, in addition to the heat that surrounds them. Your cardiovascular system is working at a level that would be appropriate for a serious athletic effort, and is doing so in an environment that provides no cooling. The sweat leaves your body in a steady stream and evaporates into the already saturated air without providing the cooling that sweat is designed to provide. You know this process. You have been in hot mines before. Not this hot, but hot enough to understand the progression. First the sweat, then the sweat becoming ineffective, then the body shifting to other cooling strategies, redirecting blood flow, reducing the effort it puts into non-essential functions. Then the specific feeling that arrives when you have been in extreme heat long enough. The feeling that is not dizziness exactly, but a general loosening of the boundaries between effort and exhaustion, between manageable and unmanageable. You are approaching that feeling now. You know the feeling. You know that the feeling is a warning. You know that the warning means slow slightly, drink water, breathe deliberately, do not stop, but do not accelerate. You slow slightly. You drink from the bottle at your belt. You breathe deliberately. You swing the pickaxe. The earth gives way another few centimeters. The tunnel is 40 meters and 3 centimeters long. Your body is losing salt along with the water. This is the specific problem of extreme heat work. Not just dehydration, but the loss of electrolytes that the muscles and the heart require to function correctly. The cramps come from this. They come in the legs first, then the arms. Not sharp cramps. The dull, deep ache of muscles that have been asked to work without the chemical environment they need to work in. You feel the beginning of them in your left calf. You flex the foot, you keep swinging. The medical tent outside has salt tablets. You will take them when you come out. For now, you flex the foot and you swing. There are 6 of you at the face right now. The rotation system means that some men are resting in the slightly cooler sections closer to the entrance, while others work the face. You rotate every 20 minutes, within the shift, 20 minutes, at the face, 20 minutes behind the face moving rubble, 20 minutes closer to the entrance doing support work. This is not a rest rotation. All of it is work. But the face is the hardest, and you cycle through it. Volodya is 2 men to your left. In the cramped space of the tunnel face, you are close enough to hear each other's breathing. Volodya breathes in a specific pattern when he is working hard, a pattern you have heard for 15 years in Donetsk, a rhythm that is his and that you would recognize in the dark, even if you could not see him. The rhythm is steady. Volodya is always steady. The youngest man on the team is Serhiy. He is 26. He has 4 years underground. He is good at his work in the specific way of people who have been doing something long enough to have the basic skill but have not yet acquired the specific additional thing that years add, which is the ability to be good at it when you are not at your best. Serhiy works well when conditions are normal. Here, conditions are not normal. You watch him. He is managing. Not easily. His swings are less consistent than yours, the angle varying more than it should, the force not always calibrated to the material. But he is managing. He is not stopping. He is not complaining. He has made the decision that the rest of you made, and he is executing it with everything he has. You say nothing to him. You do not need to say anything. He is doing the work. The work is what the work is. You say nothing, and you keep swinging. Behind you, the man moving rubble is Gennady. Gennady is 51 years old. He should not be at the face at 51 in this heat. He knows this. You know this. The team leader knows this. Gennady is moving rubble because Gennady is the most experienced man on the team, and the most experienced man understood that the rubble needed to move fast and got on with moving it. He has not said anything about his age or the heat or the fact that 51 is too old for this specific work in this specific temperature. He just moves the rubble. This is what miners are, not heroes, workers who do the work that is in front of them with the knowledge and the body that they have. The dosimeters the miners carry are not particularly accurate at the depths and in the specific radiation environment of this tunnel. The readings they give are the best information available, but the best information available is not comprehensive. Some of the miners have been told this, some have not. You have been told. You note your dosimeter reading every 20 minutes, as instructed. The readings are within the acceptable range the briefing described. Whether the acceptable range is calibrated correctly for this specific environment, you do not know. You record the number, you swing the pickaxe. In the second hour, your mind goes somewhere else. This is familiar. 15 years of repetitive physical work has taught you that the mind, given a long enough physical task to manage, eventually handles the management automatically and frees itself for other things. You can swing a pickaxe without thinking about swinging a pickaxe. Your arms know the motion. Your legs know the stance. Your body has been in this configuration more times than you can count, and it does not need supervision. So, your mind goes. It goes to Donetsk, to the apartment where your wife is right now, probably starting dinner. Your boys. The oldest is 16, the middle one is 14, the youngest is 11. The oldest is at the age where he has opinions about things and expresses them, which is sometimes exhausting, and always something you are quietly proud of. A boy who has opinions is a boy who is thinking. You want him to keep thinking. You think about your wife. She knows where you are. She did not try to stop you coming. This is who she is. She's been married to a miner for 15 years. She knows that miners go where the work is and that sometimes the work goes where ordinary people are not willing to follow. She made a good dinner the night before you left, and she stood at the door of the apartment and she looked at you for a moment and she said, "Come back." Just that. Come back. You said, "I always come back." She said, "Yes. Come back from this one too." The tunnel is 43 meters long now. You have added 3 meters today. You keep swinging. Above you, 6 meters up through concrete and steel and earth, is the open reactor. You think about this sometimes while you're working. Not obsessively, but it is there, the awareness of it. The thing above you that is the reason for the thing you are doing. You are here because the reactor is there. The reactor is producing heat that is coming down through the building, toward you, and toward the water table below you. You are the obstacle between those two things. You are a man with a pickaxe standing between the reactor and the groundwater, and you are adding meters to the tunnel because the meters matter, because the platform will go where the tunnel ends, because the platform will stop what otherwise will not stop. 3 hours. The team leader comes to the face and says, "Time." You stop, mid-swing. The pickaxe is pulled back but not released. You hold it for a moment. Then you set the head on the ground and you lean on the handle and you breathe. 3 slow breaths. Your lungs taking the hot air and using it and releasing it and taking it again. You turn around. The tunnel behind you is 44 meters long now. You have added 4 meters on this shift. The target is 4 meters per shift. You have made exactly the target. This is the specific satisfaction of professional work done to specification. Not more than needed, not less, exactly what was asked. You walk back toward the access point. The walk back is easier than the walk in, not because the distance is shorter, which it is not, but because you are moving away from the face and toward cooler air and toward the surface and toward the things that the surface has that the tunnel does not. The temperature drops slightly with each meter. By the time you reach the access point, it is still very hot, but it is hot in the way of a hot summer day rather than hot in the way of the tunnel, and the difference is significant. You climb out. The outside air is warm. It is May and it is Ukraine, and the May afternoon is warm. But after the tunnel, the May afternoon feels cold. Your skin, which has been in 54 degrees for 3 hours, reads the outside air as a relief that is almost painful. The sweat on your body, which was producing nothing inside the tunnel, suddenly works as it was designed to work, the evaporation drawing heat from your skin, and you stand in the late afternoon and you cool. A medic gives you salt tablets and water. You take them. You sit on the ground. You look at the sky. The sky is blue, the specific blue of a Ukrainian May afternoon. The color of the sky on a clear day in a country that has clear days in May, more often than it has cloudy ones. You have not seen the sky in 3 hours. It is very blue. Volodya sits down beside you. He looks at the sky too. After a moment he says, 4 meters. You say, yes. He says, how many more? You say, maybe 30 more shifts, maybe less if the other teams are making pace. He does not say anything to this. You both look at the sky. After a while, Volodya says, I have been underground for a lot of days in my life, and I have come out and looked at the sky many times. But it never looked as good as it looks right now. You say, no. He says, no. You both sit there and you look at the sky. You write to your wife every other day. The letters are short. The shortness is not from lack of things to say, but from the specific economy of a man who is tired and who knows that the important things are not always the many things. You write, I am well. The work is hard, but I can do it. The men I am working with are good men. The food is adequate. You do not write about the temperature, not because you are hiding it, because putting it in a letter would make your wife worry in a specific way, and the specific way would not change the temperature or your situation, and would only add something difficult to her days. The temperature is your problem. You can manage your problem. You do not need to share the managing. You write, I think about you and the boys every day. This is entirely true. You write, tell Kolya to keep working on his mathematics. I know he says he hates it. He does not actually hate it. He hates that it is difficult. Difficult and hated are not the same thing. He should learn this now. You stop writing and you think about Kolya at 14, the way he looked the last time you saw him. The specific combination of boy and something else beginning that 14 is. You think about him sitting at the kitchen table with his mathematics homework and the expression on his face that says he hates it, which is actually the expression of a boy working hard at something he finds difficult. You write, the sky here in the evenings is very beautiful. Tell the boys I said so. You seal the letter. In the morning it will go on the truck that goes to the postal system, and in a week it will arrive at the apartment in Donetsk, and your wife will read it at the kitchen table, and she will read the part about Kolya, and she will show it to Kolya, who will deny hating mathematics and be quietly pleased. You fold the letter. You sleep. Tomorrow you go back down. The tunnel reaches the required position. After 17 days, not 30 shifts, 17 days because the teams worked through the night, 3-hour rotations around the clock, the tunnel advancing meter by meter through every hour of every day. 600 miners. The tunnel under reactor number 4, which the engineers and the politicians had decided was the necessary work, was completed in 17 days by men from the coal fields who took off their shirts and went underground because someone asked whether they could live with the alternative. You are not there when they pour the concrete. The tunnel is finished. The miners' work is done. The engineers and the construction workers take over. They install the refrigeration system. They pour the concrete that becomes the freezing platform that goes between the reactor and the groundwater. This work is also difficult and also dangerous and also done by people who understood what they were doing and did it anyway. By the time the platform is poured, you are back in Donetsk. You are back in your apartment. Your wife has made the dinner you came back to. Your boys are at the table. Kolya is doing his mathematics homework with the expression you wrote about in the letter. The youngest one tells you about something that happened at school. The oldest one asks a question about the work that you answer in general terms without specifics. The apartment is the apartment. Nothing in it has changed since you left. The same chairs, the same table, the same smell of the apartment that is the smell of your family accumulated over years. Your jacket is on the hook by the door where you always leave it. Your tools in the place where you keep your tools. Everything exactly where it was when you left 3 weeks ago. You sit at the table. You eat the dinner. You are very tired. Not from the day. You have done no physical work today. You came back on the train, and the train was 8 hours, and 8 hours of sitting on a train is not physical work. You are tired from the 3 weeks, from the cumulative weight of 3 weeks of tunnel, 3 weeks of 54 degrees, 3 weeks of being 6 meters under the reactor. The tiredness is the kind that sleep does not entirely fix. It will diminish over days and weeks. The body recovers. 15 years of mining has taught you this. The body recovers, given time and food and sleep and the ordinary conditions of a life. The tunnel will become something that recedes, the way all past work recedes. But tonight you are tired. Tonight you eat the dinner. Tonight you look at your family and you do not say, "I was 6 meters under an open reactor for 3 weeks." You do not say, "The temperature in the tunnel was 54 degrees." You do not say, "I took off my shirt and I swung a pickaxe and I added 4 meters to the tunnel every shift and now the tunnel is finished and the platform is being poured and the groundwater is safe." You do not say any of this. You say the food is very good. She says, "You always say that." You say, "I always mean it." Years later, some of the miners from the Chernobyl tunnel operation will develop health problems. The relationship between their work at Chernobyl and the health problems will be studied and debated, and the conclusions will be contested, and the Ukrainian and Russian governments will respond to the questions about health effects in ways that are consistent with how governments respond to these questions, which is to say, inadequately. Some of the miners will receive recognition. Some will receive compensation. Some will receive neither. The tunnel will be there, under the reactor, as long as the reactor stands. The hands take the longest. The calluses from the pickaxe. The miners who worked the Chernobyl tunnel go back to their own mines and their own pickaxes, and in the ordinary rhythm of mining work, the Chernobyl calluses blend into the general accumulation of calloused hands. But there is a period, weeks, perhaps months, when the hands from the tunnel are distinguishable from ordinary mining hands. The specific pattern of where the handle wore the skin. The specific pressure points of 3-hour shifts at the face. The hands remember what they did. You look at your hands sometimes, not often. You're not a man who spends time looking at his hands, but sometimes in the evening, sitting at the kitchen table after dinner, you look at the hands and you think about what they did in those 17 days. The specific physical reality of adding meters to a tunnel under a reactor. The weight of the pickaxe, the resistance of the earth. The sound of the strike and the give of the material, and the slight rebound that comes up through the handle into the palm. The hands remember all of it. The mind can choose to remember or not remember. The mind has some control over what it returns to and how often and with what weight. But the hands do not make this choice. The hands have their own memory. The hands carry the tunnel in the way of things that were done and are now done, that were physical and remain physical even when they are finished. The tunnel is there. Under the reactor, the platform is there. The groundwater is safe. 30 million people drink from the Dnipro River without knowing why they can. They do not know about the tunnel. They do not know about the 600 miners. They do not know about the 54 degrees. They drink the water. That is what the work was for. That is enough. A note of history. In May 1986, approximately 600 miners were mobilized from the coal mines of Ukraine and Russia to dig a tunnel under Reactor Unit 4 at Chernobyl. The miners came primarily from the Donetsk and Tula coalfields. Most were experienced professional miners with many years underground. The purpose of the tunnel was to allow construction of a concrete platform beneath the reactor building. The concern was that the molten nuclear fuel, the corium, as it was later called, was burning through the reactor building's foundation and might reach the water table beneath the building. If the extremely hot corium reached groundwater, the resulting steam explosion could be catastrophic, releasing many times more radioactive material than the initial explosion and potentially contaminating the Dnipro River, which supplies drinking water to approximately 30 million people in Ukraine. The tunnel was dug by hand, using pickaxes and pneumatic drills, with the rubble removed by hand and transported out of the tunnel. The temperatures inside the tunnel reached approximately 50 to 60 degrees Celsius, due to the heat radiating downward from the reactor above. Miners worked in 3-hour shifts. Most miners removed their shirts due to the heat. Salt tablets and water were provided to prevent heat exhaustion. The tunnel was completed in approximately 17 days. The miners' union had initially resisted the assignment, arguing that it was not coal mining work and that nuclear conditions were outside their expertise. The resistance ended, according to multiple accounts, when someone posed the question of whether the miners could live with refusing if the consequence was massive contamination of the water supply. After the question was asked, the miners went. Later scientific analysis determined that the specific catastrophic scenario the tunnel was meant to prevent, the corium reaching the groundwater and causing a massive steam explosion, may not actually have been as likely as the 1986 assessment suggested. The corium had already cooled somewhat and solidified in parts of the reactor building's basement. The frozen platform was never actually needed to prevent the predicted explosion. Whether the threat assessment was correct at the time, given the information available in 1986, remains a matter of debate among nuclear engineers and historians. The miners of the Chernobyl tunnel have received varying degrees of recognition and support from the Ukrainian and Russian governments over the years. Health monitoring of former liquidators, including the miners, has been inconsistent. The long-term health effects of the work are difficult to isolate from other occupational exposures and from general population health trends. Some miners developed health problems in subsequent years. The causal relationships have been studied and disputed. The tunnel itself remains. It is part of the complex structure beneath the Chernobyl plant that has been studied extensively by scientists working on the containment of the site. The corium, the molten mixture of nuclear fuel and reactor materials that flowed through the reactor building in the weeks after the explosion, solidified in the basement levels of the building in formations that have been photographed and studied. The most famous is a formation called the Elephant's Foot, a mass of solidified corium discovered in the basement of Reactor Unit 4, which was still emitting lethal radiation doses decades after the accident. Next, the KGB officer.